Hello, and thanks for joining the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. 65 days from now, Nigerians will go to the polls to elect a new set of leaders to pilot the country's affairs for another 4 years. How set are you for the 2019 elections? Today on the program, Atiku eventually signs peace accord as General Abdulsalami warns against hate speech. Senate in rowdy session as it steps down confirmation of EFCC board nominees. And later on the show, NLC insists on 30,000 naira minimum wage must be implemented before the 2019 elections, as ASUP says no going back on strike. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Afolabi Akinola. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us again. The major recipe for each free election is for the major actors and their supporters to conduct campaigns in manners devoid of acrimony. The National Peace Committee, headed by former head of states, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, which did a yeoman's job in ensuring peaceful outcome of 2015 polls, gathered political parties in Abuja on Tuesday for the signing of a peace accord for the purpose of the rancor-free presidential campaign. Candidates of 76 political parties signed the accord, including the incumbents and candidates of the All Progressive Congress, that's President Muhammadu Buhari. Notable absentee presidential candidates from the ceremony were PDP's Atiku Abubakar, Donald Duke of the Social Democratic Party, and Obi Ezekwesili of ACPN, who we later gathered signed the peace accord today. Meanwhile, the former military ruler warned against politicians against hate speech and campaigns capable of incitement. However, everyone is talking about peace. Let us hear from the Sokoto State Governor, Aminu Tambuwal.
Let me take advantage of this platform to appeal to our politicians, now that the season is here, to play politics without bitterness. We should also and always have it at the back of our mind that we are in this business for service to the people of Nigeria and our respective constituencies, not for selfish reasons. Therefore, it should always matter to us that whoever comes out of his house goes back home safely without being manhandled by political thugs. We shall therefore avoid thuggery. We should play clean politics. After all, power comes from God, and only God gives power to whom he wishes at his own time.
Governor of Sokoto State writes Honorable Aminu Tambuwal there, talking about making peace. That was the last award, the Daily Telegraph award they had. Babajide, this peace committee, we saw them during the collation of results. I want to fast forward from the signing of the peace pact that we saw with Jonathan and President Buhari that time, before 2015. So when they were struggling between President Goodluck Jonathan and General Buhari, because as at the time General Buhari was elected, we saw some of them too. I think they were playing some underground roles, mediating, and how relevant is that committee during the 2015 election?
Oh, it was I did a good job. We did a yeoman's job. Remember, before that election, the whole world thought Nigeria would go up in flames. In fact, the ICC paid particular attention to Nigeria. And you remember that they even sent Fatuma to Nigeria, the Gambian woman who holds a top position at ICC. They sent her here to warn our politicians that the ICC will not tolerate hate speech, the sort of hate speech that could lead to violence, that could lead to loss of lives on the scale that we witnessed in Kenya. So the world has seen clearly what could result from hate speech. We saw it in Rwanda, we saw it in Kenya. So because of that, the ICC paid great attention to Nigeria, and even the world powers also paid attention to Nigeria. Remember, John Kerry came here and said, look, the election has to be free and fair. Everyone was apprehensive about what will happen in the aftermath of the 2015 election. You remember it had been predicted that Nigeria will break up and all that. So this, the Abdul Salami and his team worked hard, reached out to political parties, reached out to party leaders, and told them that, look, you need to play the game by its rules. No need for hate speech, no need for us to divide ourselves along religious lines and all that. Election should be something that brings joy. It shouldn't be something that brings bloodletting. And remember, the message got across to Goodluck Jonathan, and just as he said in 2011, repeated the fact that that his ambition is not worth the blood of anybody. And then we saw, despite the heated nature of the campaign, we saw the president and Buhari at that time embracing. They hugged each other and they were exchanging pleasantries. So it helped to calm the tension in the land, because if the people that we look up to, the politicians that we see as our heroes, if they decide in their hearts to make peace, to let peace reign, to guard the peace that we enjoy in Nigeria, there's a way that it will percolate down to their numerous supporters. So, and I also think that the work of the Abdul Salami committee also helped us to achieve the happy ending that we saw after the election, which ensured that Goodluck Jonathan rang the president to congratulate him even before the official announcement of the result. That was, in my view, extremely significant. Some have called him a coward, some have said, look, he had no choice, but it's on record that in Nigeria, people don't do that. People don't, even when they are well beaten, they would rather go and waste money on lawyers and not concede. So it is the hope of all of us that we'll see the same pattern in
2019.
In 2019. There's no point for us to be killing ourselves. Let Nigerians know that election should be like a carnival. That's the way it is elsewhere. Voters see it as an opportunity, once in 4 years opportunity, to show the leaders that they have the power to replace them. So everyone will be happy that, oh, that opportunity has come. It shouldn't be an opportunity for us to be killing ourselves. We'll go to campaign grounds and be using machetes to attack ourselves. No. So this is what Abdul Salami and co are about. Initially, I was worried when I heard that Atiku did not attend. But I'm happy that today, very early today, even before 1, they had already signed, because everyone subscribed to the idea of having this peace pact. And it is my hope that we will eventually have a transparent 2019 elections that everyone will be happy about. And then our goal of achieving peace will be realized.
Have you seen the campaign so far, as in, like, the thing started like 3 weeks ago? Have you seen a campaign that has been dwelling more of issues, not mudslinging?
Reasonably, at least to an extent, the campaign has been fair enough, and it has been, tailored along issue matters, and which is reasonable as far as I'm concerned. But I have a perspective to the discussion. The peace accord signed, fantastic. At least the body language of every, political gladiators in that situation. And again, I'm happy today that Atiku has also signed, because the signature you append them matters. Because without signing, a lot of people feel that, okay, you are interested in violence, and that has been settled. But I think the peace accord that matters to me is that of the Nigerian electorate. Because the peace is during the campaign, and mind you, post-election matters. We've seen what happened during MPN and UPM in those days
even in 2011, as recent as 2011, people went.
So the peace accord of the Nigerian electorate matters. They should realize that most of these politicians we are talking about, how many of their children will even be in Nigeria at that time to vote? As I speak to you, most of their children are not in Nigeria. So Nigeria is a signatory to so many international conventions on at least sanctity of human lives. The electorate peace accord is much more important to me than every other peace accord. And again, if INEC plays its roles better, because if election becomes transparent enough, if Nigerians are convinced that their vote counts, hardly will you see anybody even fighting up and down. And I think, again, this thing is because there is so much poverty in the land to an extent. When people don't have much to do, they see this kind of avenue to make trouble. So, to me, reasonably speaking, if Nigerian electorate understand that the sanctity of human life is very important to them, there will be peace in the land. And I think, again, the civil society organization has a role to play. It's not only enough to sign. Sensitization, awareness creation. The media also has a role. Even the NBC, Nigerian Broadcasting, they have a role to play to ensure that campaigns are issue-based. Because human beings have a reasonable level of basis to be excessive in whatever they do. If there are regulatory bodies to curb such excesses, it will make sense. That's just my submission as far as this peace accord is concerned.
Beyond that peace accord, we know what happened, the followers. It might not be the people contesting. It might be some of their lieutenants, but we know how they recruit boys on the streets. We know how they arm them. We know what happens in, campaign rallies. We know how we get to see people not permitted to possess, to take ammunition all around. We see it. I cover campaign rallies, and you see them with double barrel. So we see a lot of things. And how do we cope the influx of those things? Because they have their own small army. They arm them, in case of breakdown of law and order.
Yeah, the crude nature of our politics ensures that politicians think that they cannot win an election unless they have an army of thugs. I'm sure you've had that look. Every politician has got thugs. If you don't have thugs on election day, you may not win. Even if you are popular, they could snatch your ballot box and all that. When you are winning, they could snatch ballot boxes where you are popular. We see that happen, but everything boils down to the politician. If the politicians want peace, we will have peace, because it is the war rhetorics coming from them that has stoken the embers of division among the electorate. The electorate on their own have no reason to fight one another. It is the politicians that are dividing our people. They are the ones buying weapons for thugs to unleash on their political enemies. So this is the situation. If you are beating the drums of war, then your own supporters will start thinking, yes, let's queue behind our leader. All this peace accord that they are signing, there are two individuals that they must bring forward to sign. Two individuals. Right Honorable Chibuike Rotimi Amechi,
honestly,
and the governor of Rivers State, Yisom Wike.
They must come and sign.
They must bring them
to sign.
And Nigerians must see that both of them have signed. Not that they will tell us just by word of mouth, Wike and Amechi have agreed to let peace reign. Because when you see even some videos,
election in Rivers State,
you see some videos, even when there's no election, ordinary appearance in court, you see guns being fired. I was watching a gathering that Amechi's candidate is the governorship.
Toyeko.
Yes, Toyeko, the governorship candidate for APC, whose position is being contested now. He was addressing people, suddenly they started hearing gunshots. Some people went to that place with the intention to harass him. So they started firing, into the air and all that. And then people were now saying, just go down, just lie down, just lie down. Those ones are probably people who are much more familiar with the warlike nature of Rivers State. Say, go down, go down, just lie flat, just lie flat. Going to court, you will see guns being fired. Talks on this side, talks on that side. So they must bring the two of them
To sign.
Buhari and Atiku are gentlemen. We all know that. But those two guys are not gentlemen. They can't stand before me and say they are gentlemen because they must prove it. Their records do not show that they are gentlemen. The things that they say in public stoke the embers of violence. They are not even gentlemanly in their looks. They are not gentlemanly in the way they speak. And these things matter. The moment people like Wike and Rotimi, Chibuike Rotimi Amechi CRA, the Lion of Ubima, the moment people start seeing them, that they really do not want to get unnecessarily aggressive about these impending elections, honestly, their own supporters will queue up behind them. It sends the right signals. So we can gather more than 90 presidential candidates and other people, a lot of them insignificant candidates and all that you will not even recognize the names of their parties. But the people who matter. Remember what happened in Rivers the last time? It shouldn't happen again. Because that's not what you call an election. And even the ordinary local, the local election that they had in the state, I think it was a by-election. Up till now, it's unresolved. So, for Rivers, we don't want to see the sort of thing that happened in 2015. No, it shouldn't happen. So, they need to work. This peace accord, they must find a way to let it cascade further down. Because at state level, even at local government levels, there are some tigers in our politics that they need to put a leash on them. They need to put a leash on some tigers in our politics so that we know that we are really interested in peace across board. It's not enough to go to Abuja and just gather Atiku, Ezekwesili, and the rest of them. So most of them can't hurt a fly. And then leave the people that we know can even hurt a lion. So this is the thing.
Afolabi, wrapping up on this now, when you look at the pattern and compare this to what happened in 2015, the momentum, the campaign, and everything, do you think it's going to be a keenly contested election?
This election is going to be keenly contested. And again, what I just want to tell the whole world at global level is that Nigeria is a very important country in the world. And again, as a student of history, we must also realize the likes of Laurent Gbagbo, who, of course, is a professor of history and failed to understand the ephemeral nature of life and power, who also insulted history with his own action. So the major gladiators in Nigeria must know that history is bigger than every one of them. So, like Jonathan said, the former president, that no ambition should worth the blood of any Nigerian. And again, we also need to work on the security operative, because they must play a role as well. Our intelligence gathering must be strengthened towards this election, because this 2019 election matters to the corporate coexistence of Nigeria as a nation. So this is my own opinion as far as this issue is concerned. The security must, of course, be strengthened enough and play a very good role.
All right. When we return, Senate in rowdy session as it steps down confirmation of EFCC nominees. Stay with us. Welcome back. The strained relationship between the executive and legislative arms of government in Nigeria reared its ugly head again on Tuesday. This time, the Senate rejected the nomination of 4 persons forwarded by President Muhammadu Buhari for appointment into the board of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, over perceived lopsidedness. The upper chamber also refused to confirm the appointment of 9 nominees by the president into the board of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, for violating the federal character principle as contained in the Constitution. This was after the senators from major divides had engaged themselves in a shouting match leading to rowdy session on the floor. Let's give you the gist.
Senators, mostly from the opposition political parties, on their feet. They are protesting non-adherence to Section 14, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Section 14, subsection 3 states, the composition of the government of the Federation or any of its agencies and the conduct of its affairs shall be carried out in such a manner as to reflect the federal character of Nigeria and the need to promote national unity and also to command national unity, thereby ensuring that there shall be no predominance of persons from a few states or from a few ethnic or other sectional groups in that government or in any of its agencies. The 4 nominees are Ndasule Moses, Lawan Maman, Galadanchi Najib, and Adeleke Rafiu. The Senate was set to confirm the 4 appointees in line with the committee's recommendation until Senator Victor Ume raised an objection.
The committee is satisfied that the nominees have the requisite experience, integrity, professional competence, and industry to discharge the functions of the positions they were nominated into.
The Southeast and the South-South are obviously not accommodated in the commission.
Senate President, the leader and his predecessor tried to douse the mounting tension to no avail.
Maybe what we should be looking at is how to correct such laws, because it just says 4 eminent Nigerians with cognate experience in any of the following, that is finance, banking, and accounting. But I think at the same time, look, we all know that there should be equity in these kind of issues.
When our committee worked hard to screen the EFCC nominees, I'm sure the committee was conscious of what the law says.
When this thing happened, the committee, the chairman is from Southeast, and we are talking about shortchanging the Southeast. The chairman was there. He should have talked to you or the leadership. If they observe this, that would have been corrected.
Distribution of these persons across the geopolitical zones of this country is wrong.
The rowdiness on the Senate floor led to an executive session behind closed doors, which lasted for about an hour. When the legislators finally emerged from the session, they stood down the confirmation of the nominees until the outcome of a committee put in place to look into the issues raised. Meanwhile, the senators remained calm when Senate President Bukola Saraki read President Muhammadu Buhari's letter intimating them of his resolve to withhold assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill.
Babajide, I think the government of Muhammadu Buhari, President Muhammadu Buhari, I think it's high time they start making deliberate efforts just to recognize this, adhere strictly to this principle of federal character because of the seeming what is in our polity. But there's a notion that this administration somehow has been sidelining the Southeast and the South-South from major appointments. How true that is, I don't know. But there's this notion. So what do you feel with this appointment again? Some people will say these are meant to be professionals, it's meant to be on merits, blah, 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 blah. But I think it's a sensitive one.
Yes, if you are talking about merit, you can find Nigerians of merit across the geopolitical zones. You are looking for people who are first class in accounting, in finance, in auditing. You will find them in every part of the country. We are not in short of bright people. We are not in short of the right people. So this kind of mistake is unnecessary because it sends the wrong signal that, oh, the government does not want certain people. But for anyone who is close to the people in government or who monitors a lot of things that are going on, you see a conscious attempt, for example, to develop the Southeast, to build roads in the Southeast, so that the people can feel that, look, it's not as if this government hates us. Even today, fresh pictures of Fashola inspecting a road project in I think around Anambra also. I saw pictures, you know, just to give that impression that, look, we have nothing against these people. Anyone who is the president of Nigeria must see himself as the father of all. When these are the unfortunate things that should not be happening. And when someone of the stature of the Senate leader gets up to say, oh, that the EFCC Act does not say that people should come from a particular zone for them to be on the board. But we've always said that what is known to all is that the Constitution takes preeminence over any act, over any body of laws in our country. It takes preeminence. And that same Constitution in section 14 subsection 3 states clearly that the federal character principle shall be applied in government, in appointing people into government agencies. The EFCC is an agency of government. So Senator Lawan was not right on that score. It's not everything that we can defend. This has happened. Yes, Aline Dume was saying that the chairman of the Senate Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes Committee is from the East. Why didn't he
point that fact? My
feeling is that, you know, every Wednesday, the Senate, they show their proceedings live. The chairman of that committee and his people must have planned that, look, I will not bring it up. I won't talk about it. I'm going to say, okay, let them, let's clear the people that have been nominated. But someone else can get up and raise these issues. So this is the way politicians plan. So he was not, he didn't, in his own speech, he didn't say anything like that, but someone else from the Southeast, from Anambra State, got up to say no, that Southeast and the South-South are not represented. When it comes to ethnic issues or even religious issues, you see how emotional Nigerians can become. So the best thing to do in this instance is, as they have refused as they have decided to step it down, let the president rejig the nominations that he has made and let him do the right thing. You can't have a situation in which people will think that, oh, you do not like a section of the country. If there are six of them now, 6 appointed now, including the secretary and the chairman of EFCC, and 4 are from the north. 4 out of 6 are from the north, 2 are from the southwest. It can't be something that you expect that people will not complain about. They will complain. And this is an election year. So all of those actions that the president is taking can actually be misinterpreted to mean that he does not like some people. Of course, the opposition will want to lash on it. So these mistakes, as I see, are not necessary. And the people around the president, the secretary to the government of the federation, this is the time for them to sit up, put on their thinking caps, and avoid this kind of needless errors of judgment.
What do you make of this?
The issue is that very, very brilliant submission so far. There are mistakes and there are intentional mistakes, in my understanding. And this anti-corruption thing is a very sensitive one for Nigeria as a nation. And it's surprising that we have a Senate leader defending these, that he prioritizes professionalism, competence, and all that to certain segments of the country, which is not good enough. Like he has said, Nigeria is a great nation and is a blessed nation. There are competent people across board. You can find them in the east, you can find them in the west, you can find them in the north. So it is surprising that, because I'm sure when Mr. President is collating some of these things, there are people around him. There are mistakes that are avoidable. For anybody of the Senate leader to justify the importance of EFCC Act over the supremacy of the Constitution of Nigeria as a country, it's very, in fact, to me, it's not good enough. But I think as far as I'm concerned, the needful should be done. And interestingly, this is an election period. Nigerians are watching. What should be important to Mr. President as a father of all is to ensure that the corporate coexistence of Nigeria is reflected in all his actions, not only on the EFCC matter, in various, parastatals and all that.
Other appointments.
So that people
even
can...
security.
Even security.
For
because
example,
people are...
the Southeasterners are saying they don't have a service chief.
So all these things must be looked into. But to me, my own submission as far as this issue is concerned is that the institutionalization of the EFCC itself is very key. Regardless of whoever we are bringing on board, the EFCC must be strengthened enough to gain conviction. That is my own submission. It's not only enough to have people on board and all that, which is also very good, but how they are able to secure conviction for criminal matters, because crime is becoming more sophisticated on a daily basis. So the legal department of EFCC should also be more sophisticated in the sense that if they're able to get conviction on issues that borders on financial crimes, that will make sense of the institution as a body. So we must institutionalize it. We must ensure that whoever we are bringing on board should introduce innovations. Because law to me, financial crime is becoming cobwebby. Rats will escape and leave mosquitoes behind. Because the rat is bigger as far as cobwebs, so they can always get. So we must ensure that institutions that will strengthen the legality or the legal department of EFCC to gain conviction. Because when criminals are smiling in the court and they are moving away without being convicted, it doesn't make sense of the establishment.
All right.
So we should do the needful.
I think we have to move on now. Nigeria is facing a barrage of industrial disharmony, mostly due to enhanced wage demands and adequate funding of critical sectors. The vexed issue of a new national minimum wage is yet to be resolved, and drastic action is required before it snowballed into another industrial action. The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, though through its various officers are insisting that 30,000 naira minimum wage agreed with government must be implemented before the 2019 elections. Meanwhile, polytechnic lecturers have joined their university colleagues to down to the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnic, ASUP, different from ASU, said there is no going back on its planned indefinite strike beginning from December the 12th. Speaking in Lagos, National President of ASUP, Usman Danse, said the strike became necessary due to the failure of the federal government to implement the 2009 and 2017 agreement reached with the union. Babajide, is government not in trouble? Everybody wants to go on strike ahead of the election. everybody want to hold federal government. ASU is on strike, and they are saying that they don't know how long that strike will last.
Sure.
No truce yet. ASU Polytechnic, they are also on strike, and to leave hundreds of thousands of our youths stranded at home.
At the mercy of politicians who need thugs.
Wow.
When the students have been sent out of their campuses and they have nothing to do, politicians will recruit them as thugs.
Honestly.
It's just natural that will happen. Politicians will recruit them as thugs. It's unfortunate how this is happening, but the truth is there are outstanding issues dating back several years. Even the ASUP matter had been there. College of Education, academic staff, they too have outstanding unresolved issues.
These ones, they will strike for months. Nobody will
the people will not even talk about it.
Honestly.
It's when ASU strikes that, there's a lot of talk in town about the strike.
ASU,
College of Education,
for long,
they go on strike, nobody will talk about it. ASU had issues for years, unresolved. And if you leave those issues unresolved, chances are that when these guys are able to have some unanimity, they will decide to go on strike. So this is what is happening. The ASU matter had been there since 2009. ASU. So with the bulk of those issues unresolved, every time ASU will feel like going on strike. Sometimes they will go, sometimes they will be placated, don't go yet, this and that. So the important thing to do is to resolve those issues. If you do not resolve those issues one way or the other, there's no way that you will expect industrial peace. Because these guys, any opportunity that they have, they will embark on strike. So this is the situation. And look at what we have. You really must pity the administration, because a lot of these issues were inherited. ASU matter dating back to 2009, when Nigeria was relatively buoyant in terms of consistency of good oil prices.
During the late Yar'Adua
Yes,
regime.
good oil prices, consistent. And Yar'Adua was able to shore up our foreign reserve more than any Nigerian president. Not just because of his determination, because we were earning quite a healthy revenue. We were getting a healthy revenue from oil. So when you look at even the NLC matter, you can't say that, oh, this is something fresh. This had been on for some time. This had been on long before the election. So if we had resolved it quickly, we won't be in a situation now that we have elections barely 2 months away, and everyone appears to want to go on strike, because they also know it's like a kind of subtle blackmail. They know that the government would want to do whatever it takes to resolve some of these issues before the elections come, because it can actually be a campaign issue for the opposition. Yeah. But the money, when you look at, but these are not easy issues to resolve. We are talking of more than $1 trillion naira. $1 trillion naira that ASU is talking about here.
Why the marketers are asking for 800 billion naira?
Yeah, 800 billion. They've been offered promissory note of 236. They said, no, we don't want promissory note. We want you to pay cash. ASU too, there is a bit of resolution, agreement with government that, okay, some of these outstanding issues we'll deal with. You know, the seemingly simpler ones, like outstanding arrears of salary and all that, gratuity, they can handle those ones. But the issue of funding, massive funding of the education sector that they've asked for, that one runs into more than £1 trillion. That is left. It's not one of the issues. You know, government talks about temporary resolution of his dispute with ASU. Those ones, the heavy hitters, have not been touched. So, but the little issues that are going to be addressed, that they've promised them they will address immediately, they still have to take this back to, you know, ASU.
They have their Congress.
It's not easy to call off an ASU strike. You have to bring everybody on board. They call the Congress, they speak with their leaders, with their members, they will get across to their members that this is what we heard from government. Should we go on strike?
Can take a vote, sir.
It's not easy at all. So that's why we are now. When I read that okay, some of those issues have been resolved, I was happy. But ASU has said no. We are yet to hear from our people. If our people don't want the strike to continue, it won't continue. But if they say we should continue, there's nothing we can do.
Must
so this
they
is
always resolve, all disputes with strike?
I think let's even take a look at this issue clearly. The Nigerian government, not even this administration, in most cases, they don't always even know how to manage relationship. It's even good that ASU and other academics, they are even lucky, at least because that's the environment I work. I work in the University of Lagos. As I speak to you, not only that, there is this impression that it's even only the academic staff that are working in the university system, which is not true.
We have NASU.
SANU is there.
SANU.
As I speak to you, SANU and some other, NASU and some other, they have their own issue. N allowance has not been paid. They were on strike the other day, they were cajoled to even resume. I was talking to some of my colleagues at the University of Lagos, I said, look at it. It's even good, at least one way or the other, ASU is even more respected and all that, all these academic staff. There are a bulk of non-teaching staff in the university and polytechnic system that are working so hard, but because their voice are not much heard like that of academic staff. So we have various issues on ground, and I think again on this ground, Nigeria as a country must begin to invest, or let me say diversify, if that will help.
For other sources of funding.
Of income. Because if you continue like this, I'm afraid, diversification of the economy is very key.
One of the things he was profiling.
So when you diversify economy,
that's why.
When you diversify economy, maybe there are other avenues where you can, of course, generate some income to meet demands. Because funny enough,
no way that the government can successfully fund education on the scale that ASU is asking for. Yes, maybe we were buoyant some years back. Things have changed. And the Vice President said that in Ibadan during the 70th Foundation Day celebration of the University of Ibadan. He said, look, we must look for alternative sources of funding because as things stand, we cannot fund education successfully. It's just not going to happen. So whether we want to tax the big corporations and let a portion of what they pay as tax go to funding education, whether you want to tax the IOCs or all those big
with something
money, yes, we just must find a way because this government cannot find the money. We will just be going on strike all the time. They won't be able. They will be pushing the can down the road, just for them to go back to work. But they will not be able to permanently solve the problem. The money is not there.
Do you know the most ridiculous part of this thing? Our students are now going to Republic of Benin, Francophone countries, going to Ghana. Going to Togo,
They won't suffer any disruption.
Yes.
Situation.
Our lecturers are leaving Nigeria.
Because the situation we have now is an invitation to brain drain. So many best brains in Nigeria will be leaving the country for other. Before we were saying Ghana must go, but Nigerians are now even saying, look, and in fact, Ghana, you understand? So there is no Ghana must go again. People must even, Nigeria must even.
A lot of the lecturers who go for training abroad on the auspices of a TED fund, they never return. They never return. Some of them are meant to spend like 4 years abroad studying, doing research and all that. But 10 years after, they are nowhere to be found. And then the issue of state funding researches and all that, we have to take a closer look at TED Fund and ask ourselves, what's really going on at TED Fund? How do they utilize the funds made available to them? Not that we don't see some projects that TED Fund does, but it doesn't mean that we should not take a holistic view of TED Fund. Is it really achieving the aim for which it was set up? Because if part of what these guys are asking for is that there should be greater funding of research and all that, then that should be TED Fund.
The management of those funds, like you have said, should also be scrutinized to be sure that full implementation of what was budgeted for is even actualized. And for academic staff, in most cases they have a grounds to at least prepare documents to the effect of what they need. So my advice for most of the non-teaching staff is that for you to have anybody that will represent you at the helms of affairs, the person must be sound enough to canvass a reasonable argument towards what you need. Because sometimes the kind of leaders you have dictates the power of negotiation. You must also understand the essentials of negotiation. What are you negotiating on? So if maybe at the level of SANU, NASU, and other related, sister bodies of university or polytechnic setting, whoever will represent them must know what they do. But majorly, no matter how good any demand is, there must be supply to match it. They must be at equilibrium. For now, diversification of the economy is key. And I will also say this, the present administration must do the needful, if there's a way they can be clever about it. Because a lot of things are happening. Oppositions might capitalize on things like this to gain a very reasonable score when it comes to campaign strategy. Nigerians are crying, but one way or the other, we must meet their demands.
Judy, we've left that era that, if you are lucky, if you attend a federal university in the 90s and the 80s, at least I can talk about those ones. As at the time I finished from University of Lagos, it was 35 naira, the school fees as at that time. And till now, I don't think it's anything close to 100,000 naira, is it?
Yes, everything is getting skyrocketed, and even
what I'm saying that is not it's not anything close to 100,000 naira.
Yes,
I don't think school fees is up to still this federal.
Yes.
Now, there's a research that came out to say, look, for you to train a graduate, let's say a graduate like an engineering graduate, that you will need ultimately maybe 10 million naira, minimum of 10 million naira to train that. And when you want to look at the way federal government, the way they are subsidizing for this student, and it's not sustainable. If you go anywhere else in the world, they pay school fees. You might pay instrumental.
Not anywhere else in the world. You remind me of what Fashola said back then, that education is the cheapest in Nigeria. Whereas in the Scandinavian countries, they don't even pay at all.
They don't pay.
He was trying to justify the huge school fees that he instituted at LASU.
Lagos State University.
For which they told him, no, you can't do this. This is a public institution. You can't do this. He ignored everybody. Oh, I'm sure our party will back us all the way. But when they lost the election in Ekiti, he came to Lagos. The students were actually asking for the school fees to be slashed to 50. Fashola slashed it to 25. So
to send a listening signal.
To show clearly that, look, we don't want to lose Lagos. So don't say that SWIS is not sustainable, SWIA.
But do we have the funds?
Look, the question to ask is, are we funding education sufficiently? We are not funding education sufficiently. In fact, we are going further down in terms of what we allocate to education. We have not even reached the UNESCO threshold. We have not. We should be able to say, okay, education and health, we want to focus on education and health and allocate much more to education and health than we are doing currently. If we do that, we will be this what you are talking about, the whole you need 10 million. That is the duty of government. Government has to make education affordable to the citizens. You can't commercialize education. You must make education affordable to the citizens. How is it affordable? Even in America, people are given loans. Students, soft loans so that they can go to school.
That's what Babalakin said, student bank.
What, like, yeah. So to just make it easy, it makes it easy for you. You pay later, many years after you can pay.
If you want to study medicine.
That is what Obama benefited from that, long after he left school. So you can create this kind of system. There are many things that you can do. You can get even the private sector much more involved in funding education. You can get them much more involved since you can't do it alone. But I still believe that we are not even voting enough money in the budget. Because when you look at even during Jonathan's time, he allocated a greater percentage of the budget to funding education than we have currently. The truth must be told. And we are saying that we can go even higher than that. Because we need countries where, why do you think Nigerians are going to? Togo. No, Canada. Canada is extremely cold. But at least you know that your children will go to school without having to pay. Abi? You've not had that?
Even medical facility.
So you go to, they are taking advantage of that. Nigerians are going there, they will go and work, they will go and work hard, but they know that their children that they are putting in school there, at least they won't have to pay. So this is it. There are many countries where education has been made so affordable to everyone that it literally means that you are not even paying a dime.
My own
support. So we are not close to that. We want people to be paying as much as 300,000 in public institutions. The leaders, Nigerian leaders today who want people to pay, parents to pay through their noses for education, that was not what happened during their time. They were older than me.
Benefits of free education.
They benefited from free education, and it is possible. How did we do it back then?
To even support what he has said now, the issue is that you can't make good policies about education when none of your children are attending any of those schools. How many of our leaders' children are attending any of the Nigerians? So they should legislate on this.
That's why they can afford for you to strike for like 2 months.
Yes, they don't care. For you to be at the helms of affairs as a public office holder in Nigeria, we should legislate on this.
They must go through public schools.
Your children must attend public schools in Nigeria. If any of those children are attending any of these schools, as a father at home, at least there will be pressure. Because I always tell people that the decision of the bedroom controls the boardroom. At least your wife will be able to tell you, look, Oga, these children have to go to school. But in America, we are referring to, and Canada, all these people are attending, all these leaders in America and in Europe, and they are also attending public schools, and their children are also attending. They are not attending African schools or any other continental schools. They are also in those countries.
Tax.
So there will be no loyalty.
Tax. You must pay tax. In the Scandinavian countries, you must pay tax, and it's very high. But a lot of the things that we pay through our nose here are taken for granted in those places.
The benefits from
housing, taken for granted, literally. Education, taken for granted. So if you have education up to tertiary level and it's free, someone will now come and tell us that it is in Nigeria that education is cheap. Maybe you have not been to those places. You look, you are talking about Ghana, talking about Benin Republic. No, that's not the world. There are places where people don't pay for education. And it is my wish that one day we'll come to that in Nigeria.
So I think
the more we develop as a country, the easier it gets for people to be educated.
Yes.
Because government will focus on it. And that's why you had the Australian leader saying, they said they should talk about 3 of his priorities, and they said education, 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 because it's the education that will bring out the right people who can build a nation, inventors and other fantastic doctors, people whose ideas will change the country. It is education that can bring about such people.
Extension.
Change the world, change the country.
So if our students are at home and they are disconnected from studying constantly, because there's this saying that I do mind is even the devil's workshop.
Honestly.
Now we are in an election period. In fact, politicians have enough raw materials to use. So it's unthinkable to use our children and our students as raw materials for political talk. So I think Nigerian government must do something about this.
I want to thank you, Afolabi Akinola.
Thanks so much.
For being part of today's edition. And the maestro, Babajide Kolade Ostoju. Thank you for always being there. And that's it on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. And you can also watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Zubako. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.